Hi, I'm 𝙶𝚎𝚗 and welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about the jobs I've applied for and got rejected from. Just in case you're wondering, I did apply to these jobs by Googling their company's websites. I know you can apply to these jobs by websites like LinkedIn and Indeed. Those are secondhand websites, but either way, they still go to the same hiring place. So I applied for a total of 11 different jobs and companies that I tried out for, and here's how it went. So the first job I applied for was Marshall's, and I got rejected. The second job I applied for was Target, and for 2 different positions, and because my application was taking too long, I ended up going to that specific Target I applied for and asking about my application if they could possibly check it, and they said no, I just have to wait for an email back. I got an email back for those 2 different positions, and both of them came back saying I didn't get the job. The third job I applied for was Lowe's, and it was for 3 different positions, and it's 3 different Lowe's. 2 of them I didn't get. The third one actually texted me and was like, what day do you want to come in for interview? And I basically never responded to that text message because I didn't want to follow up with that Lowe's because of its area. So I just never followed up with that one. But it was good that I got asked to come in for interview, because that's what I hope for, is follow-ups, because most of the jobs can also kind of ghost you. You also know to be careful giving out your phone number, because when you're applying to jobs, I feel like I also applied to a lot of scam websites because I'm still getting potential spam calls here and there ever since I've been applying to jobs. The fourth job I applied for was American Heritage Bank, and I actually had to do a video interview for that, which I did send, and I got a phone call back, and they told me that I wasn't hired just from that one phone call. I'd have to wait because it took so long. I started sending voicemails to the people who called me, and I eventually got a letter in the mail back saying I didn't get the job, but they'll keep me in consideration. That was the only bank I applied for. For Chick-fil-A, they did send me a text message, but never anything furthering the process of the hiring, and no interview. So I just assume I didn't get the job there, and that Chick-fil-A also was not even one near me, but I just seen what I could find and apply for. The sixth one was Ulta Beauty, and there was no Ulta Beauties in my area, so I didn't apply to any, but I signed up for an email that gives you updates if there happens to be a position or application open. The seventh job I applied for was Dick's Sporting Goods, and I got rejected. Now for restaurants. So the first restaurant I applied for was Texas Roadhouse, and they have this weird portal where you can check on your application. I got rejected from that. The second job I applied for was Buffalo Wild Wings. It was for a cook. Now, bear with me, I have no cooking experience, but when I tried applying, it was a restaurant near me, and they said that they're open to other positions as long as you're over the age of 16. I was hoping maybe if I apply, I could be a potential server or something like that, just get a job. They eventually texted me back saying, and obviously it's the AI generated one, but it does mean that someone considered me for a date and an interview, and I picked one of those dates and I got scheduled an interview. I went to a total of 2 interviews. There was supposed to be a third one, but there never was a follow-up. They considered me not to be a cook because it was mostly men who were cooks. They said I could do the front or the server, but they never followed up with a third interview, so they kind of just ghosted me. And so for the next 2 restaurants, I actually called them. So with the restaurant applications, they're not like the stores or banks I applied for. For them, I actually called the restaurant during the day when they were open, and speak to someone saying, do you have a hiring manager? Can he check my application? For Applebee's, they said to call them back at 12 p.m. and I called them back at 12 p.m. and they told me to call tomorrow morning. I called them tomorrow morning and they said to call them later at 1 p.m. I assumed they didn't want to check my application at Applebee's. So I moved on with that. At Longhorn, I called, and on the first call, there was a server or someone on the phone. He's like, oh, I can get you a hiring manager. The hiring manager to speak to me on the phone was like, what's your name? He found my application, and then he said, okay, it should be texted to you. I got texted the interview dates, and then I said I'll do this day, and I got scheduled for an interview like the next day. I went to the interview, and they said they'll give me a phone call back if I got hired. Haven't received anything since. With that being in mind, out of all the applications I applied for in jobs, I got a total of 4 interviews. First being the American Heritage Bank, which was a video interview. Second was the Lowe's, that I never followed up with going to for an in-person interview. Third one was Buffalo Wild Wings, and the fourth one being Longhorn, which was 1 interview. But yeah, I got 4 interviews back. I got hired for 0 of the jobs I applied for recently. Now, here's my theory on why I didn't get accepted to most of these jobs. The first one being that my resume not aligning with the skills needed. On multiple of the applications I applied for, there were multiple surveys asking if my household uses food stamps, surveys like that, asking questions about your welfare that are obviously kept confidential, or if was in the military service. I said for most of them no, because of these surveys asking about my welfare could have something to do with the president's One Big Beautiful Act of 2025 and the welfare program where they automatically give it to people on welfare, as to why I got rejected from all the jobs I've applied for. The fourth thing being because most of the jobs I've applied for were asking about applications on AI through the store's websites. It could also be detected by an AI and not a real human resource person. With that being in mind, it's on the computer, and it's not like the olden days where people used to just go to the store and ask for application, fill it out on paper. Not just that, but there's also a lot of technology when you go to supermarkets that can do our job for us, like self-checkout. And Giant has its robots you see walking around in the store. From looking up stuff on the internet, say you need a referral, like you have to know the person that works there, better yet, the person who hires you. Some also say on the internet that you should look up the person who hires at that company and look them up on LinkedIn and reach out to them. But for me, that felt like almost stalking them. I didn't want to be too much of a stalker about it, especially if I don't know the person personally, and I also barely have LinkedIn. So I'm just starting life. It would be quite a process or hard to find a hiring manager, and I don't really know who, where, when, how could I find them. Thank you so much for watching this week's video. I'm trying to post 2 times a week. Jobs haven't been working. Target's been going out, not hiring people. So I'm going to be posting 2 times a week from now on. Hopefully I can keep that promise. I know last time I was on here, I said every Tuesday. Obviously I didn't keep that up, but we're going to try again. But yeah, and I'll see you in my next video. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all that jazz, turn on post notifications if you haven't already. And I'll see you in my next video. Peace. Bye.